All right. All right. Welcome. Welcome everyone. Today I'm responding to something that I kind of saw on Twitter. A lot of kind of retweeting and circulation and a kind of lot of responses to a figure known as Alex O'Connor. Alex O'Connor is a kind of very well known debater in the kind of theological space. Um, he's just kind of known for having constant conversation with Christians and Muslims. I believe he doesn't really kind of I think he's pretty open to having conversation, theological conversation. He's obviously talked to a lot of kind of big figures, big Christian figures, and even Muslim figures like Jordan Peterson, Barish, I believe that's his name, and yeah. So the tweet that kind of went a little viral here was Alex O'Connor expressing frustration, but almost like the sort of his expression of trying to experience God, right? And he goes through a big spiel about how he's read William James, Freud, Carl Jung, um, a lot of the mystics, a lot of church fathers. He has a divinity degree, or he took a theology degree. He also expressed how he's even spent some time with devoted Christians to sort of um, hopefully encounter this supposed um, God experience, right? He's been searching for God, right? And Alex O'Connor again kind of goes through everything, every single option that he has gone through to explain how he hasn't yet experienced God. Um, but I can't help but kind of point out the irony in what he is doing. Like Ibn Arabi says, at least if I'm recalling, Ibn Arabi says this, where God is not something um, to be found. Buber also says this too. God is not something to be found. Um, and and you can tell that Alex O'Connor, at least in my opinion, is almost searching for God like an object. Like I'm trying to find this object because this object will grant me an experience, right? But what I always find helpful with Martin Buber is that Martin Buber, for being a kind of Jewish existentialist, philosopher, theologian, you name it. I don't want to reduce him to any of these labels, but as a man of dialogue, I think that's a better term. Buber points out that all these men that claim to have found God, can also be godless. Um, this is something that I don't think Alex O'Connor realizes. That all the men that say they have found God are also, ironically, the men that no longer have God, that they have also lost God. And this is why Buber proposes an interesting question, because what Alex O'Connor is doing is that he's trying to find God. He's trying to locate God within the region of where men historically have claimed to experience and have found God. And there's a couple of problems with that notion. Why? Because again, it's possible that where the men claim that they have found God, supposes that you can find God there too, right? And so, in some sense, actually, Alex O'Connor is doing a kind of ironic move where he's actually preventing his own realization, because he is confining his search to men that have claimed the experience of God. Um, and what's really helpful to point out with Buber is that Buber says that even men that have claimed that they are godless, in fact, have experienced God, right? That they know something deeper. They have a deeper relation to God, even though they claim to be godless. And so the irony, the ultimate irony of Alex O'Connor, in some sense, is that one, that he's searching, but two, that he is not searching where he would least expect to find God. And where would Alex O'Connor find God in the least expected? Well, that would mean in the least expected way, it would be men that claim to be godless, right? This is the kind of irony that is kind of, in my opinion, the sort of blinding force of Alex O'Connor trying to locate this experience of God. And thirdly, you know, this notion of experiencing God is always a troublesome concept, because in some ways we think that we can perform the same maneuvers to experience God, right? Um, but if we take God seriously, um, mimicking or doing some semblance of how somebody else achieved a God experience can also possibly deter you from having this supposed God experience. That actually we can raise the probability or the possibility that maybe God wants you to weave your own way to Him and not merely copy or do some semblance of a mimicking about how other men have stumbled and found God. Um, and this is the kind of danger in this, right? Because in theology, a lot of the danger is that a lot of men will say, well, look, this is how I found God. Like, you should do the same. Just pray every day, and you will encounter Him, or something like that, or spend all this time with devout Christian individuals, and you'll find God. Again, there is a demand upon Alex O'Connor to stumble upon it in his own way. Now, there's always room to debate that, yes, he is kind of going about it his own way, because he is openly experiencing and kind of experimenting with different possibilities of experiencing God, right? Through reading and so on. But it sometimes begs the question, why is Alex O'Connor failing to have this grand experience of God? Why is he failing? There's a couple of concerns that may indicate the failure as such. That it's possible that Alex O'Connor himself is not truly throwing skin in the game. It's possible. But, this is a question of intention, something that we can't actually prove. But sometimes the frustration that he's displaying about his failure to achieve this God experience does really beg the question, is Alex O'Connor really throwing skin in the game when he talks about this God experience that he has supposedly been deprived of? Um, and not only that, he's also confining his search. He's confining his encounter. What do I mean by he's confining his encounter? He's confining his encounter because he's solely looking at men who have supposedly experienced God, and not the other way around. He's not leaving open surprise of men that claim they are godless and yet carry a kind of God experience with them. And this is a very interesting proposal um, that I even have for dear Alex O'Connor. Because I've kind of watched him. I think when I used to be Muslim for a while, um, and yeah, I mean he's a kind of very logical thinker, um, and all this other stuff. But sometimes I think the over dependency on his reason and his analyzing arguments can also deter this probability. And I think some part of his reasoning and thinking is like trying to locate God within the men that claim God, right? Why not go for the more ironic proposal? Try to find God in men that claim they have found no God. Try to find God in men that say they are completely godless. Um, because ultimately he is really confining his search. And so it does really question his methods in some sense. That's really all the testimony kind of says to me. It really questions his methods. And the overarching method that really points to me is that he is simply trying to find God where men claim that they know God and have found God. And so already his search is kind of futile, is already obscured, it's already lost. And so and what he's saying is a kind of true sentiment. You won't find God. You won't experience God. Because it's also possible, like Martin Buber expresses, that those men are also godless. That their God is an object. You know? That their God is an object. So yeah, those are just my brief thoughts. There's much to say about this. I would really enjoy a conversation with Alex O'Connor, actually, when I think about it, because it would be really interesting. Mainly because I just wouldn't be interested in debating, but I would just be interested in, having a conversation like this, having more ironic conclusions about stuff like this. But anyways, those are my thoughts on kind of responding to Alex O'Connor. And yeah, all right. Hope you guys take care. Bye.